I told my parents I'd be gone for 2 weeks on a business trip to Chicago. I even let Mom iron my blazer one last time, let Dad say, "Make us proud." I smiled, kissed them goodbye at the porch, and wheeled my suitcase down the drive like any other dutiful daughter. But I never boarded a plane. Never even left Waco. Instead, I circled back an hour later in a rented Nissan and parked 3 houses down from the only place I ever called home. The Airbnb I booked was dust-covered and stale, but it had a perfect view of my old bedroom window. That's all I needed. Inside, I unpacked like a soldier prepping for a siege: phone chargers, surveillance mic, 2 flash drives, a stack of legal docs bound in elastic. And the leather notebook, the one I swore I'd only open when I was ready. Turns out, I was ready. Midnight crept in. I sat on the floor under the window, watching. The house hadn't changed. Porch swings still crooked. Wind chimes still clanging like ghosts. Then, a light flicked on upstairs, my room. My heart stalled. Behind the glass, a woman stood. My mother. She looked older, yes. Thinner maybe. But it was her. She walked over to the dresser I painted yellow when I was 9. Picked something up. A photo. My school portrait. Age 12. Braces, red sweater, one dimple deeper than the other. She ripped it in half. Then again. Tossed it into the trash like she was discarding a grocery list. I whispered, that was me. What could she possibly hate that much? The room grew still. Her silhouette faded as she walked away, but the message lingered. I hadn't just been forgotten, I was being erased. My breath fogged the window. I remembered last Thanksgiving. The silence. The unanswered calls. The message from Dad, awkward and low: "Maybe it's best you sit this one out." Across the street, their porch glowed warm and welcoming. And here I was, watching like a stranger. But strangers don't fight for truth. Family does. Mom wasn't just any woman in town. Evelyn Harlow sat on every board that mattered: school, charity, you name it. Her picture hung in the library with a plaque that read "Civic Heart of Waco." Dad, Warren, always nodded along, saying, "Let's keep the peace," like peace was something you had to apologize for. Colt, my brother, hadn't picked up in months. Not after I called and said, "You know something's wrong, don't you?" He hung up. I pulled out a small box and placed cameras by the window, pointed at the porch and mailbox. Click. Connected. Watching. That night, Evelyn stood outside, cordless phone tucked under her chin. I heard every word through the parabolic mic. "She's not coming back," she said, voice firm. "We've moved on." A pause. Then laughter. Light, effortless. I scribbled in the notebook, "Day 1. This ends on my terms." Out came the receipts. Bank transfers. Odd withdrawals. Emails Dad sent at 3 a.m. marked confidential. My job wasn't to destroy them. Just to expose what they'd already done. The flashbacks hit hard. Evelyn cornering me by the fridge, whispering, "If you keep talking like that, I'll have you committed." Is that what you want? I'd saved the voice memo from that day. Played it back now. Her tone, so smooth, so certain. No one ever believed me. They will now. I clicked open another file, a fight in the hallway. Dad pleading, Evelyn lying, me sobbing. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming truth. They rewrote the story. I was here to reclaim the ending. Gloves on, I crossed the street under the veil of night and rummaged through their trash. Fingers trembling, I pulled out a pharmacy bag. The name printed on the receipt? Mine. Backdated 3 days. As I backed away, the hairs on my neck stood up. A car was parked 2 houses down. Lights off, engine cold, but there was someone inside. Still. Watching. Facing the window where I'd just been. I ducked behind a hedge, heart thundering, and waited. No movement. Whoever they weren't looking for my parents. They were looking for me. What would you do if your own mother erased you from the family photo? Let me know in the comments, have you ever had to take back your story? The sun rose slowly over Waco, but I'd already been awake for hours. I hadn't closed my eyes since spotting that car last night. Sleep wasn't an option, not with everything unraveling in front of me. I sat at the small Airbnb table, laptop open, fingers shaking over the keyboard. It started as a hunch, a gut feeling. I logged into my old online banking, the one I hadn't touched since moving to Austin. I nearly spilled my coffee when the screen loaded. Designer stores. High-end furniture outlets. All in my name. I scrolled through charges from boutiques I'd never walked into, $3, $200 at one, $5,600 at another. They were all within Waco. Then I found a newly opened joint account. Authorized user, Nova Harlow. Only, I didn't open it. I called the bank. The rep sounded cheerful. Yes, Ms. Harlow. We have your verification video on file. You were verified via Zoom last Thursday. What? My voice cracked. We require a short verbal confirmation for identity, she said. Your image is on file. Can I see the video? There was a pause. Then, she offered to email the link after additional verification. I waited, heart punching through my chest. 10 minutes later, I watched it play. The woman on screen looked like me. But it wasn't me. Same cheekbones. Same inflection. But wrong eyes. And in the background, faint and unmistakable, Evelyn's voice. Softly prompting. She didn't just forge documents. She impersonated me. She stole my face. Not just my name, I whispered to the silence around me. Still reeling, I opened an old college email out of habit. Most messages were spam or alumni donation drives. But one thread caught my eye, a forward from a local notary titled Deed Updates, Nova Harlow. The email thread wasn't addressed to me, it was between 2 offices, but somehow, I was copied by mistake. I opened the attachment. It was a scanned copy of updated property records. My name. My address. But the correspondence listed Evelyn as primary contact. Worse yet, her signature appeared right next to mine, except I had never signed anything. I zoomed in. The handwriting was neat. Almost perfect. But not mine. Flashback hit hard. Years ago, after a minor surgery, Evelyn pressed me to give her power of attorney. Just in case, she'd said. I refused. We fought for a week. She must have forged it, I muttered. Or worse, convinced someone I'm not competent. I printed the deed and email. Then cross-checked every document I could find. Over the next 2 hours, the floor around me filled with paper, bank charges, fake signatures, and emails with my name spelled too perfectly. I started building a timeline. Last year, my health insurance was inexplicably cut off. I assumed it was an HR error. Now I knew better. Old alumni profiles now listed a different contact, care of Evelyn Harlow. Somehow, in plain sight, my mother wasn't just editing my presence, she was erasing it legally. Tax documents had never reached my mailbox. Half had gone undeliverable. I had blamed USPS. But Evelyn worked at the post office 2 days a week as a community volunteer. This isn't erasure, I said aloud. This is extermination. By evening, I felt like I was spinning underwater. Alone. Unmoored. I tried calling Leah, my college roommate. She worked in compliance and owed me a favor. Disconnected. I texted my cousin Amy. Hey, call me. Urgent. No reply. An hour passed. When you disappear quietly, I murmured, people assume you meant to stay gone. Desperate, I dialed a Waco attorney using a prepaid burner. Asked anonymously, can a family member sign legal documents for you, without your knowledge? Only if they have medical power of attorney, she replied. Or legal guardianship due to incapacity. What if the documents were forged? A pause. Then someone's got a serious lawsuit coming. Those words lit something inside me. A fire I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was theft. Premeditated. Calculated. I finally saw it, not just a trail of lies, but a path forward. I would stop pretending to be invisible. From the window, I glanced toward the house again. Same porch. Same faded wind chimes. But something new. A white envelope, thick and unmarked, was tucked into the front gate. No mail carrier. No footsteps. Just sitting there like a ghost's offering. I stood frozen for a long moment, pulse in my throat. This war was no longer silent. Have you ever felt like your identity was being erased, piece by piece, by someone you trusted? Drop a comment and tell me how you took back control. I hadn't planned on becoming a spy. Not in my own hometown. And especially not on the people whose photos used to line the staircase I once ran down every Christmas morning. But here I was, standing in the dusty corner of a supply store on Highway 6, sliding a smoke detector into my coat pocket, only it wasn't just a smoke detector. It was a bug. A low-end audio bug with just enough range to pick up whispers through the walls. By midday, the house was empty. I'd memorized their routines. Evelyn's ladies' brunch every Thursday. Warren's golf range hours. I parked behind the hedges and crept around the back. The porch steps still creaked the same, though the screen door had been replaced. I found the hallway vent above the living room, unscrewed the old cover, and slid the device inside. A pretend screwdriver in one hand, a lie in the other. My breath was shallow as I left. The thought hit me like a slap, I'm spying on the people who raised me. Back at the motel, I powered up the laptop, the feed already connecting. The crackle of silence filled the room for an hour, then a familiar voice sliced through the static like a blade. She died when she left us, Evelyn said flatly. I froze. Colt's voice came next. I reworded it like you said. The clause reads, due to ongoing psychological instability, Nova Harlow shall no longer be entitled. I appreciate that, Evelyn interrupted. We must preserve the family image. Then Mara chimed in, casual as you please, should we destroy the rest of the journals too? Just in case? My jaw clenched. They didn't just forget me, I whispered. They buried me while I was still breathing. I replayed the recording, not to confirm it, but to etch it into memory. I labeled the audio file Evidence A, Betrayal, and uploaded it to a secure drive. For the first time, my pain had proof. This wasn't just paranoia. It was policy. Later that night, I returned. Just for a moment. The audio had too much static from the hallway. I needed a better angle. The house sat dark. I slipped in through the back, moved quickly, and climbed the hallway chair like a ghost. As I adjusted the angle on the vent, a door slammed. I froze. Footsteps. Evelyn. Early. I dove into the linen closet, heart a drumbeat. I crouched low, pressed between towels and a forgotten bottle of shampoo. My shampoo. Lilac and lemon. The kind she said made me smell like a sad flower. Her heels stopped outside the closet. Then the hallway vent. She stared. She looked right at it. I didn't move. She shrugged. Walked away. I waited 5 more minutes. Then ran. Back at the motel, I tore open my notebook. Drew a blueprint of the house from memory, every creaky board, every blind spot. I categorized the recording into 3 sections: legal fraud, defamation, and mental abuse. Sticky notes covered the walls now, one above my headboard read, "They thought shame would keep me quiet. They were wrong." I opened my laptop camera and hit record. "This is Nova Harlow," I said softly. "If I disappear again, this video will explain everything." I sent it to a new contact. Gavin Reed. Lawyer. Honest, hopefully. Brave, preferably. "The war started," I said before ending the video, "the moment they called me dead." And then my phone buzzed. An alert from the cloud drive. Someone had just accessed the folder I thought was secure. From a burner address. Whoever it was. They were watching too. Have you ever had to hide the truth just to protect your sanity? Drop a comment below. Sometimes sharing your story helps others find the courage to tell theirs. The lights of the Waco Civic Center cast long shadows across the carpeted floor, humming fluorescent overhead like a distant warning. I wore my mother's favorite shade of lipstick, peach coral, the same one she always said made me look less tired. Strange how things like that stick. Under a borrowed name and cheap blazer, I drifted through the Chamber of Commerce networking event like a ghost in a room full of handshakes. And then I saw him. Theo Lark. The way he froze told me everything. His expression fell from polite professionalism into something tender, stunned, haunted. His eyes flicked toward the name on my badge, then back up to my face. I held the stare just long enough before I turned and walked toward the quieter hallway near the restrooms. I didn't need to look back. I knew he'd follow. We stood beneath a framed photograph of some past mayor. Theo's voice cracked the silence. "I never stopped trying to reach you. They made me leave." I said nothing, letting the weight of those words sit between us like a folded note never opened. The last time I saw Theo was a lakeside picnic. Then he vanished, no warning, no closure. "They told me you were unstable," he said. "That staying would only hurt you more." I looked at him, hard. So I wasn't crazy. I was silenced. Have you ever had someone you trusted suddenly disappear? Tell me what changed for you. Theo reached into his coat and pulled out a worn envelope. Inside were emails, receipts, documents. My mother had offered him a payout, 25 grand, and a legal gag order. "I didn't take it," he said. "Didn't seem like something you'd forgive." "You could have disappeared forever," I said. "But you didn't deserve that," he replied. In that moment, something shifted. For the first time since coming back, I wasn't alone. Later that night, we sat in his rented office downtown, papers scattered across the desk under a buzzing desk lamp. Property deeds. Financial statements. Charity donations that led nowhere. They don't just erase people emotionally, Theo said. They do it on paper. I traced a date on a document. That was the week I lost access to my own medical records. Another line showed Evelyn's name tied to a grant I'd applied for and never received. They counted on me staying quiet, I said. But silence isn't protection. It's participation. I uploaded every document to a secure cloud drive, timestamp, 11:58 p.m. Then I labeled it, exposure // phase 1. Across town, Colt's phone buzzed. He texted Mara, she's meeting him again. Do we pull the plug now? Mara's reply was instant, not yet. Let it morph. Back at my Airbnb, I sat by the window. The Harlow house was lit up like always, warm, curated, the same porch swing I used to read on. Now I mapped it in my mind like an enemy's fortress. They used guilt. Love. Tradition, I whispered. Now I'll use truth. I opened my notebook and began outlining the legal steps. I listed witnesses. Dates. Public timelines. This was no longer about pain. This was strategy. I flipped the page and wrote a line I'd underlined in an old journal during college, when you know better, you do better. Maya Angelou. I stared at it for a long time. Then picked up my phone. Lena. My younger sister. Still in that house, still under Evelyn's thumb. I didn't write much. Just, you matter. Don't hide in shadows. Sent from an anonymous number. I shut off the lights, one by one, feeling the weight of quiet hope press against the tension in my ribs. I came back pretending to be invisible, I said aloud. But I'm aiming to be unforgettable. Just as I reached for the lamp switch, something caught my eye. A white envelope had been slid under the door. Neat cursive. Thick paper. To Nova Harlow, care of Evelyn Harlow. I didn't touch it. Not yet. The Harlow house looked almost holy from the outside, lit like a cathedral, every window glowing with self-importance. Inside, though, it was nothing but theater. I stood at the service entrance, wearing a black catering uniform, a fake name stitched above the pocket, Marion. The scent of champagne and lilac perfume drifted out from the parlor, thick enough to choke on. The family had turned the house into a stage for their latest performance, a charity gala, all for community outreach. I knew the real goal, to launder reputation into sanctity. The marble floors gleamed, chandeliers scattered fractured light across smiling faces. I hadn't been inside this house in 6 years. My hand brushed the wallpaper on the staircase, my mother's signature pattern. The same place she once told me I was her greatest disappointment. They built their kingdom on lies, I whispered under my breath, balancing a silver tray. And tonight, they'll toast to their own reflection. From the crowd, I caught snatches of conversation. Evelyn's voice, smooth as butter, bragging to donors about consistent philanthropic growth. Colt laughing near the piano, talking about the final family settlement. Even the chandelier above them looked ready to crack from the weight of hypocrisy. Every empire falls from the inside. I knew that better than anyone. As I poured champagne for an older man in a navy suit, I heard Colt's voice again, sharper this time. The psychiatric certification's ready. Once it's public, she's done. My pulse stopped. Mara's laugh followed. Evelyn said the doctor's note alone makes her legally unstable. It's airtight. The glass in my hand almost slipped. I set the tray down before my shaking could give me away. I remembered my mother's warning, her voice echoing from years ago, "We can make anyone believe you're broken." My phone buzzed in my apron pocket. Theo's message flashed on screen, "Get out." Too risky. Not yet, I typed back. Evelyn stepped to the microphone, her pearls catching the chandelier light. "Tonight," she announced, "we honor integrity, resilience, and the importance of family unity." The crowd applauded, heads bobbing like puppets on invisible strings. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Integrity. Family. Unity. Those words were tombstones to me. And then her eyes met mine. It was only a heartbeat, long enough for my breath to stall. Something flickered across her face, recognition buried beneath calculation. But she said nothing. She doesn't see me, I thought. She sees control. And she believes it still works. As applause thundered through the parlor, I slipped quietly toward the hall. The study door was cracked open, warm light spilling across the floor. Inside, on the desk, were folders stacked neatly, medical forms, property deeds, notarized letters. I opened one. Nova Harlow, psychiatric assessment. My stomach turned. The signature was forged. Below it, a transfer of ownership for the house, signed by Evelyn C. Harlow, guardian of Nova Harlow, mentally unfit. They weren't just stealing my life. They were burying me legally. I snapped photos with my phone, every line, every forged signature. The air in the room thickened as I moved. Then, footsteps. Colt. I darted behind the velvet curtain. He entered, talking into his phone. "After tonight, the papers go to probate court. Yeah, Mom's confident it'll stick. By Monday, it's done." He was so close I could smell his cologne, the same brand he used as a teenager when he still looked up to me. When the door shut behind him, I exhaled. My fingers moved fast, got proof. They're about to commit legal identity murder. Sent to Gavin. I turned toward the exit and froze. Lena stood in the doorway. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Nova?" Her voice cracked. I nodded. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "If Mom sees, then maybe she'll remember I exist." Her lip trembled. "It's not just her. Colt's pushing this too. You're dangerous to them now." I stepped closer. "Then let's make them afraid of the truth." Lena's tears fell silently. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I brushed past her gently. Outside, the air was thick with Texas humidity, the cicadas humming like static in my skull. I walked quickly to the car parked 2 blocks away. My stolen folder sat on the passenger seat, glowing faintly under the streetlight. Through the windshield, I could still see the house, the chandeliers burning, guests laughing, Evelyn smiling like a saint. "They're still celebrating," I murmured. "They don't know the party's over." My phone buzzed again. A new message. No sender ID. Subject: the doctor you're looking for doesn't exist. Have you ever had your family build lies about your sanity? Would you fight back, or walk away for good? Tell me what you'd do, because silence is exactly what they count on. The email still lingered on Nova's mind as she sat across from Jade Monroe, her college roommate, now seated in the corner booth of Bluebonnet Cafe, an old haunt with mismatched mugs and the scent of cinnamon toast still clinging to the walls. Jade had messaged her late last night, no judgment, just coffee. "Let's talk." Nova watched her stir the cream into her mug with too much focus, a little too rehearsed in her kindness. I never believed what they said about you, Jade whispered. People talked, sure, but I always knew it wasn't true. You weren't crazy. Nova let her guard slip. Just slightly. I've been gathering evidence. Legal, medical, financial. Stuff that could burn them down if it gets out, she said. Jade's eyes widened, not in surprise, but calculation. She quickly masked it with a smile, but Nova saw the tremor in her hand as she reached for her cup. They reminisced, shared laughter over late-night study sessions, dorm room drama, the time they skipped finals to road trip to Galveston. It almost felt real. Almost. But the tremble hadn't left her fingers. And when Nova mentioned testimony and formal case, Jade's expression faltered just long enough to leave a crack. Nova left the cafe thinking maybe, just maybe, she still had one person from her past who hadn't turned to ash. That hope didn't last long. 3 hours later, her phone buzzed. Gavin's voice was sharp through the line. Nova, did you try to sell your own files? What? Of course not. He forwarded screenshots to her inbox. A darknet listing titled Harlow House Secrets had gone live. Property fraud, forged medical records, everything she had given only 2 people, Gavin and Jade. The seller's contact was partially obscured, but the phone number? It ended in 4317. Jade's college number. Nova had dialed it 100 times back then. Once while sobbing on a cold bathroom floor. She pulled up the public access camera feed from the cafe. There it was, Jade's laptop, open to a glowing screen, her fingers moving fast while Nova had been talking. A hollow ache formed in Nova's gut. Not just betrayal, humiliation. The betrayal that hurts most is the one that sounds like concern, she muttered. She hurled her coffee mug into the sink, the shatter ringing louder than her thoughts. Parking lot lights buzzed above as Nova stepped out of her car and approached Jade's vehicle. Jade stood beside it, arms crossed, caught. Nova's voice was ice. You took my pain and priced it. Jade's mouth parted, eyes darting. I needed the money, Nova. Colt offered me more than you ever could. You're not going to win this. You didn't just sell me out, Nova said, stepping closer. You sold your own reflection. Jade flinched. You don't understand. I thought maybe I could stop them if I played both sides. Nova raised her hand. No. You made your choice. Jade yanked a USB drive from her bag and threw it at Nova's feet. Then take it. You're on your own now. Nova bent down, picked it up. Her fingers shook, but her gaze didn't. That's what I was from the start. Later that evening, the neon flicker of a budget motel sign bounced across Gavin's glasses as he met Nova in the dim lobby. She handed him the USB. You just survived a professional setup, he said. They'll think you're backing down. Nova's smile didn't reach her eyes. Good. Let them. Gavin exhaled. You've got resolve. They've got money. Let's use that against them. Nova nodded. We start tomorrow. Chain of custody, data encryption, timelines, this becomes real. She paused, voice softer now. As Hemingway said, the world breaks everyone, and afterward, some are strong at the broken places. Outside, the air was heavy with storm tension. She stepped out, feeling the weight of the night, when a uniformed security guard brushed past her. He slipped a folded piece of paper into her palm and disappeared. She opened it slowly. Your father's asking for you. Tonight. Alone. What would you do if your family built lies about your sanity? Would you fight back, or walk away for good. Tell me in the comments, because silence is what they count on. Nova's fingers trembled slightly on the wheel as she pulled onto Ridgeview Lane, headlights sweeping over hedges that hadn't been trimmed in weeks. Her phone rested in the passenger seat, the last message still glowing across the cracked screen. Your father wants to see you. Alone. She parked outside the tall iron gates, unchanged since childhood. The same ones she once watched from the back seat, feeling both safe and trapped. Warren opened the door before she could knock. He looked smaller than she remembered, grayer, shoulders hunched, eyes dimmed by something deeper than age. I didn't know what they were doing, he said, stepping aside. Not at first. The house was darker inside. Dust clung to picture frames, a grandfather clock stood frozen. They gave me a stack of forms, he continued. Evelyn said they were routine. 4 taxes. I just signed. Nova looked at him, voice steady but low. You didn't just sign forms, Dad. You signed me away. His jaw tensed. Shame, maybe. Or fear. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small brass key, placing it on the kitchen table without a word. It's for the cellar, he said. Some things didn't get destroyed. The basement door groaned open like it hadn't moved in years. The stairs creaked under Nova's steps, dust curling in the air with every breath. It smelled of mildew and memories. She passed boxes marked Estate 2014 and old decorations stacked in corners. A canvas tarp covered something in the far corner. She pulled it back. A wooden chest. Heavy. She popped the latch. Inside, photographs, legal folders, a dusty camcorder. She flipped through the pictures, family charity events. But some of the checks were missing numbers. A few were completely blank. One folder read Project Renewal. Her stomach tightened. Skimming the documents, Nova saw the pattern, donations rerouted into private accounts. Names abbreviated EH/CH. She didn't need a spreadsheet to recognize the initials. She plugged the camcorder into the wall and held her breath. Grainy footage flickered. Evelyn's voice rang out, clear and sharp. We'll file the psychiatric paperwork under her name. The rest will fall into place. Colt leaned into frame, signing something. One less obstacle. In the background, Warren. Silent. Nova's whisper was barely audible. They filmed their own crimes. They always assumed no one would look down here. She looked into the lens. Ever found proof of betrayal hidden in plain sight? What did you do with it? Footsteps above. She froze. Someone was coming. She crouched behind old shelves, heart pounding, holding her breath. Then a small voice broke the silence. Aunt Nova? She peeked out. A flashlight blinked down the stairs. Ellie, no more than 10, stood with a stuffed bear clutched to her chest. I saw you on the camera, Ellie said. Daddy said you were a ghost. Nova stepped out slowly, crouching. Do you think I'm a ghost? Ellie shook her head. Ghosts don't cry. Nova smiled, her heart aching. Why are you down here? Ellie stepped closer. Grandma burned papers last week. Said it was for the family. But I saw your name. Nova reached back into the chest and pulled out a small silver locket. She opened it, 2 photos, worn and faded. One of Nova as a girl. The other, Evelyn. She pressed it into Ellie's palm. Keep this safe. No matter what. Ellie nodded. Are you in trouble? Nova touched her cheek gently. Not anymore. Back in her car, Nova sat in the dark, clutching the camcorder like it might disappear. She called Gavin. I found proof. Video. Financials. Names. It's all here. She sent the encrypted files. On the other end, Gavin's voice was tense. Nova. This is big. Once we move, they'll retaliate. Nova's eyes were cold now. Let them. I'm not hiding anymore. She stared at the camcorder. Evelyn's laughter crackled through the speaker. You built your empire on my silence, Nova whispered. I'm done being your foundation. She put the car in drive. In her rear view, the house stood quiet. The lights in the upstairs bedroom flickered once. Somewhere in the distance, sirens. Then her phone buzzed. A new message. No name. You think that tape will save you? Check your mirror. Sometimes the truth isn't buried deep, it's just waiting for courage to dig it up. What's the hardest truth you've ever uncovered? Nova sat across from Gavin Reed in his dimly lit Waco office, binder in her lap like a brick of silent dynamite. She slid it across the desk. The red label read, Harlow Deeds and Fraud Timeline. Gavin opened it slowly. They'll scramble. You need to strike before they regroup. She leaned forward, voice low and clear. Good. Let's hit while their feet are dug in. Elsewhere, Colt's phone buzzed on the bar counter. His fingers swiped fast. Evelyn's text lit up the screen. She's moving out of shadows, deploy Operation Silence. Colt didn't hesitate. Already on it. Back in Gavin's office, Nova's phone vibrated with a message from Theo, watch your back. They just hired private investigators. Nova stared at the screen for a long moment. Her pulse didn't quicken. Her eyes didn't blink. She just muttered, let them watch. I've got more than shadows to show. Have you ever felt your opponent was already moving before you even laid your plan? What did you do next? Hours later, Nova sat alone in her motel room, curtains drawn, a lukewarm cup of tea going untouched beside her. The motel TV crackled to life with a news alert. Developing tonight in Waco, whispers of scandal in one of the city's most storied families. Her face came up next, an old photo from a family gala, smiling but half-faded by the screen resolution. Then Evelyn appeared. Studio lighting softened her expression, a string of pearls resting perfectly over her lavender blouse. I loved my daughter, she said, voice trembling just right. She walked away years ago. We've mourned her ever since. Nova blinked slowly. They rehearsed this, she said to no one. They made sure this would land soft while they hit me hard. A knock at the door. Just a quiet envelope on the floor. No return address. Inside, a USB. The file name made her breath hitch. Nova_Harlow_mentalhealth.pdf. She opened it, scanned the pages, fabricated therapy notes, diagnosis codes, state-recognized flags of mental instability. She called Gavin immediately. They're not just deflecting. They're rewriting me. They want you looked at, Gavin said, not your evidence. Nova's jaw tightened. Then I'll make the evidence louder than their whispers. She drove out to the lake. The pier still stood, crooked, weather-worn, but somehow defiant. She walked to the edge and stared at her reflection. It had been years. She used to laugh here, throw pebbles, race Theo on their skateboards. Evelyn would call from the porch, voice clipped, your life will be decided soon. She'd hated that line. Now, she understood it better. It wasn't a prediction. It was a warning. Headlines lit her phone screen again. Daughter of prominent Harlow family suffers breakdown. They turned me invisible, she whispered, and called me insane for noticing. She texted Theo, meet me tonight. I need you on camera. Her phone rang before she could press send. Unknown number. A slow, gravel-lined voice, you think you're ready. Wait until they bring out the file. Click. Back at the motel, Nova stood over a table covered in fragments of her past, the bug audio from Chapter 3, video from the cellar, records of bank transfers, copies of press smears. She opened her notebook, writing in bold strokes, they thought my mind was their easiest target. Let's make it their greatest weakness. She uploaded everything to a secure drive and messaged Gavin the link. This is the arsenal, she told him. Use it everywhere. The courtroom. The press. Hell, use it in a sermon if you have to. He chuckled. TV's one battlefield. The courtroom's next. Then I'll bring them into both, Nova said. Her voice didn't shake. She opened her phone and set a countdown timer, 6 days until the hearing. When someone attacks your reputation, do you hide or use it as your catalyst? How would you respond? The night was still and heavy with humidity. Nova stepped outside. The world looked the same but felt sharpened somehow. As she crossed the parking lot toward her car, headlights flared from a white SUV across the way. It didn't move. Just idled. Then, soft scrape of paper, something slid across her windshield. A note. Handwritten. Stay quiet or watch them watch you. Nova didn't flinch. She just slid the note into her coat pocket, started the engine, and whispered, let them watch. The sun hadn't cracked over the rooftops of Waco when Gavin's voice came through Nova's burner phone. Turn on the news. Now. But don't say a damn word. Nova grabbed the remote with shaking hands. The headline scrolled slow and deliberate, live, Harlow family to make public statement. The camera framed Evelyn and Colt perfectly in front of the Grand Harlow estate. Evelyn's hair was pinned neatly, makeup just enough to suggest a sleepless night. Her voice trembled on cue. My daughter, she's deeply unwell. This has been hard for our family. Nova stared, numb. Colt stood beside her, tight-lipped, nodding. They looked like a grieving couple at a memorial service, not two people spinning a net of lies. Within minutes, social media flooded with sympathy. Pray for Evelyn. Mental health matters. Nova's name dragged through digital mud. That's when Theo knocked, no words, just a flash drive in hand. He pushed it across the table. It's their rehearsal. The real Evelyn, before the act. Nova plugged it into her laptop. There she was. Evelyn, laughing with Colt off camera, sipping wine. They'll believe me, Evelyn had said, smirking. They always have. Nova's voice was barely a whisper. Truth never shouts first. Lies always rent the microphone. Gavin sat across from Nova, watching the rehearsal video play back. We leak this anonymously. Once it's out there, it's out for good. Nova didn't answer right away. Her thumb traced the edge of the flash drive. Her breath shallow. If this goes public, there's no going back. Theo, arms folded, leaned in. They made you a ghost in your own story. Time to haunt them back. By nightfall, the footage was viral. Nova was right. Harlow lies. Rehearsed grief. Evelyn's soft-spoken image cracked. The illusion of maternal heartbreak shattered pixel by pixel. Screens around Waco flickered with betrayal. Colt stormed into Evelyn's study, throwing open the doors. "You said we owned the media." Evelyn's eyes didn't blink. Her voice, for once, lacked polish. "Find the leak. Shut her down. I don't care how." Nova sat in Gavin's office, legs tucked under her, reading every comment that rolled in. "I believed Evelyn until I saw this. Nova deserves justice. Reminds me of how my brother gaslit me in court." For the first time, the tide didn't just shift. It thundered. The evening news updated again, breaking, leaked rehearsal video calls Harlow's statement into question. Evelyn issued a rushed follow-up interview, voice cracking in all the wrong places. Those clips were taken out of context. The public wasn't buying it. Gavin turned on his camera. "You ready?" he asked. Nova exhaled. "Let's go." She faced the lens, eyes steady. No makeup. No edits. Just her voice. "I'm not here to destroy anyone," she said, "but I'm not here to disappear either. Integrity doesn't expire. And it doesn't come with a PR team." It aired overnight. A local station uploaded the clip first. Then came national pickups. Comments poured in from people who remembered the Harlows at charity dinners, grocery stores, school boards. Nova scrolled. Her hands shook, but not from fear. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do, and proved your truth without yelling? Tell your story below. Theo met Nova at a diner just off Highway 6, tucked in a corner booth beneath buzzing fluorescent lights. He slid a small memory card across the table. "I told you once your mom made me disappear," he said. "I didn't tell you I recorded it." Nova didn't move. She said she'd plant evidence. Press charges. "I was 18. She said I'd never see sunlight again if I didn't walk." The footage showed Evelyn, calm and cold, threatening Theo with fake assault claims. Her voice didn't shake once. Gavin took the card. "This goes into the court record." That night, Evelyn's name began to fray. Reporters stopped protecting her angles. Colt lashed out at cameras, shoved a mic from a female reporter's hand. It aired unedited. Nova's voice echoed silently in her mind. "For once, I didn't have to scream to be heard." The silence did the work. As Nova left the diner, her footsteps slowed. Across the street, a black car sat idle. Tinted windows. Still. Behind the glass, Evelyn watched. And smiled. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers with proof in hand. What do you think? Did Nova go too far, or just far enough? The courthouse doors opened with a heavy groan, the kind that echoed through time and consequence. Nova walked in early that morning, long before the crowd, long before the cameras were allowed to roll. She'd come here before as a child, Christmas galas, charity auctions, but never as herself. Never to stand against the people who'd taught her silence. The courtroom felt colder than usual. Gavin was already setting up, his sleeves rolled, glasses low on his nose, voice sharp with purpose. "We'll start with Exhibit A," he said. The camcorder footage, the audit spreadsheets, Ellie's testimony summary. It's airtight. Nova took her seat at the table, her eyes locking briefly on Evelyn. Her mother's hands rested perfectly still in her lap, her expression stone, but every so often, a flicker crossed her eyes. Colt sat beside her, chin low, knee bouncing. When the first video played, the room fell still. Evelyn and Colt appeared on the projection screen, signing fraudulent checks, staging donations. Evelyn's laughter filled the speakers. Colt flinched at the sound, his jaw flexing. Nova sat unmoving. I once waited for them to recognize me, she thought. Now I wait for them to recognize the truth. A senior juror whispered to a reporter behind Nova, "Never seen a family empire open up like this before. Have you ever held the proof but waited for the right moment to show it? What stopped you?" By midday, the tension rippled through every corner of the courtroom. The judge called the next witness. Ellie Harlow. 10 years old, tiny, and shaking just enough to make Nova's breath hitch. The bailiff led her gently to the stand. Her little hands folded over each other like prayer. The judge leaned forward. "Miss Harlow, can you tell the court what you saw?" Ellie nodded, eyes flickering toward Nova, drawing courage from her aunt's calm. "I saw Grandma burning papers in the yard," she said quietly. "She said it was for the good of the family. But I saw her crying." Evelyn blinked once, stiff but silent. The room froze. No one coughed, no one moved. The judge asked, "You saw the documents destroyed?" Ellie nodded again, voice clearer this time. "Yes, sir." She said, "No one will ever find out." Nova bit her lip. Pride, sorrow, and fierce love collided in her chest. Her niece, her innocent witness, was the light that truth had been waiting for. "Children do not play in the dark so that lies may hide," Nova whispered under her breath. When Ellie was dismissed, she turned and smiled, small, brave, and everything pure Evelyn could never fake. Then came Evelyn's turn. She rose slowly, her pearls glinting like armor. Her voice shook but carried weight. "I tried to protect my family," she said. "You cannot understand what it means to bear that burden. I acted as any mother would." Nova's jaw tightened. "You protected your image, not your daughter." The judge nodded. "The court will recess for jury deliberation, 24 hours. As soon as the gavel struck, Colt stormed past, his face dark red. He leaned close, words like venom. "You're going down, Nova." She met his stare. "Not going down. Rising from within." He blinked. "No comeback, just fury and fear." Nova stepped outside for air, her reflection caught in the glass door, a woman she barely recognized, and finally didn't need to. She texted Theo, "This isn't revenge. It's reclamation." Would you call it victory when they fall, or when you walk away whole? The next morning came too bright. The courthouse packed to the rafters again, reporters, spectators, neighbors pretending they weren't invested. The jury filed in, each face unreadable until the foreman stood. In the matter of Nova Harlow versus Evelyn Harlow and Colt Harlow, this court finds he paused, letting the silence stretch like thread. Ms. Harlow will retain oversight of the estate. The defendants are hereby removed from all executory authority. The words landed like final nails in a coffin. Evelyn didn't look up. Colt slammed his palm against the table. Nova closed her eyes. One breath in. One breath out. Outside, Texas sunlight poured down like mercy. The courthouse steps felt warmer now, less like stone and more like ground she could finally stand on. Gavin joined her quietly. "You did it." "No," she said, smiling faintly. "We did it. And maybe the truth did it for us." She walked toward the parking lot, the courthouse glass catching her reflection once more. She stopped, staring for a moment at the woman in the reflection, the woman who refused to vanish. "They erased me when I was gone," she whispered. "But they couldn't erase that I returned." Theo leaned against his truck, arms folded, no words, just a nod. She opened the passenger door, slid in, and exhaled. The phone buzzed once. Private message, case file ready for national press. Are you ready? Nova glanced at the horizon, a faint smile curling. Always. Sometimes your success doesn't scream. It simply walks out with dignity. Have you ever felt that kind of calm after the storm? Chapter 12, the 2-week story ends, my forever begins. The heavy courthouse doors thudded shut behind Nova with finality that echoed far deeper than their wooden weight. A breeze swept across the steps, warm and dry. She didn't look back. Gavin Reed stood waiting at the edge of the plaza, his suit wrinkled from hours in litigation, tie loosened but his expression crisp. It's done, he said, nodding not just to the victory, but the clean break. Nova's voice came low, steady. It never was about revenge. It was about truth. She looked out at the lot where Evelyn and Colt silently entered separate cars, no eye contact, no headlines, just quiet ends. They made me pretend I was gone for 2 weeks, Nova thought. I stayed for 2 years to reclaim my life. Her heart didn't race. No tears brimmed. Just breath, deep, earned, cleansing. Have you ever achieved what everyone said you'd never win and felt nothing but calm? Tell me that moment. Back at the Harlow estate one final time, the porch creaked beneath her as twilight painted the house in purples and golds. She stepped lightly, each footfall its own goodbye. Through the foyer, past faded portraits and dust-framed memories, Nova walked with a stillness born not of fear but of release. In her old bedroom, untouched in time stopped, she reached for a small frame. The school photo, her younger self, half smiling, believing in futures others tried to erase. She didn't cry. She didn't linger. She placed the photo gently on the passenger seat of her car. You belong in my past, not their memory, she whispered. The house stood quiet behind her, each light extinguishing in sequence like curtains falling after a long, uneven play. With a click of the ignition, Nova drove away, not in hiding this time, but toward the truth she finally owned. Austin wasn't an excuse anymore. It was a horizon. Sometimes your biggest victory is the sunrise after the longest night. Her new apartment in Austin was modest, a second-story walk-up with creaky stairs and the scent of fresh paint. But it was hers. A desk stood by the window, sun catching the edge of a metal plaque, Nova Harlow, founder, Center for Family Integrity. She unboxed folders, cases like hers. Families stitched together with silence and shredded truths. She typed slowly, intentionally, my silence was a gift they unwrapped. Now it's a tool I give to others. Theo knocked once before stepping in. No grand entrances between them, just presence. You made the move, he said, walking beside her in a small nearby park where the trees swayed like old neighbors nodding hello. They're still reacting. Nova smiled. That's the difference between living and surviving. Later, she pinned a quote above her desk, you alone are enough. You have nothing to prove to anybody. Maya Angelou. This time, she believed it. Have you ever started over, on your own terms, and felt like you finally belonged to yourself? Share that chapter. On her wall calendar, Nova circled today's date. Above it, the one she was supposed to return from her so-called business trip 2 weeks ago. She crossed it out in thick black ink and wrote beside it, Day 1, my real come home. She sat down in front of her laptop and clicked record. The camera light blinked on. Her voice came clear and measured. I told them I'd be gone for 2 weeks. I returned to reclaim what they denied me. If you're watching, be loud in your own quietness. The camera faded to black, lingering for a moment on a street sign just outside her window, Welcome to Austin. Inside, the desk was cluttered with legal drafts, an empty mug, and the seeds of something lasting. Nova leaned back, the city humming low around her. They never knew my rest was part of my resistance, she thought. The laptop pinged. One new email. Subject line, your story inspired something bigger. We all pretend to be someone else to fit in. What would you rather pretend? Or what truth are you ready to live out loud?